So let me see if I could do a desktop shares.
Naveen, if you are not able to make Sampath as a panelist, you can demote me.
Chair for IEEE HKN Makerfair track and chair of IEEE Society Madras section. I'll be moderating this, session today. So on behalf of IEEE HKN Makerfair team and IEEE Society Madras section, I would like to welcome today's speaker, Mr. Sampath Veeraraghavan, Chair, IEEE Site Global Steering Committee, founder and president of the technology-based humanitarian program, the Brahmam, senior technical program manager at Amazon, USA, and he's a great inspiration for many, including me, in fact, and he has been held in many distinguished positions in IEEE and received many prestigious awards and recognitions. All the participants have gone through his profile. It is really an honor to have you, Sampath sir, here today. So I would like to extend my welcome to Dr. Ramalata Marimuthu, Chair of IEEE YESIST12, and the members of IEEE YESIST12 Makerfair Committee, officials from IEEE YESIST12 Steering Committee and IEEE Society Madras section. I would like to also extend my welcome to the guests from other IEEE organization units, students, professionals, academicians, and all the technology enthusiasts as participants to this webinar on decoding the life cycle of technology-driven sustainable development. So, as you all know, this event is being organized by YESIST12 Makerfair team. I would like to introduce about the event. For that, I would like to call Ms. Tasneem from Bangladesh to introduce about the session. Over to you, Tasneem. Tasneem, I made you as a panelist. You can proceed, please.
audible now?
Yes, 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 you are, please.
Thank you, Navin, for giving me the opportunity to give a brief introduction about our event. IEEE YESIST12 is an annual international student showcasing platform where the students and young professionals can showcase their innovative ideas to solve humanitarian and social issues affecting the community around them. Starting from 2013, this event has reached to lots of people, including IEEE members and non-members around the globe. With the growth till 2020, this event currently has 5 tracks that include Innovation Challenge Track, Maker Fair, Junior Einstein, We Power, and Spatial Track. The call for abstracts for all the tracks, including the pilot registration, has been started already and will be open till 10th of July this year. Now let's talk about the Maker Fair track, which aims at recognizing and motivating micro-innovators to students and early career levels. Maker Fair welcomes all the passionate young minds, innovators, enthusiastic makers and entrepreneurs, industries and organizations to showcase their innovative projects to the international community. It's also a great opportunity, especially for the students, to promote their innovative projects into product, since project to product development is one of the major and vital themes of this track. Besides this, they also become privileged to share and gather technical, technical and non-technical knowledge which may strike their innovative thoughts to rethink and achieve success. Also, they get the opportunity which may strike their innovative thoughts to rethink and achieve success. Also, they get the opportunity to meet and listen from the past innovators in the field of science and technology. So it's a great platform to find one's mentor like the way he or she wants to work. So don't waste your time and submit your projects at www.ieees12.org/tracks/makerfair. The submission will be opened till 10th of July. You know, this pandemic was stopping us from moving out, joining classes and many things, refraining us from doing many things. But we will not let anything refraining our young innovators to innovate and to showcase. So our this year's finals of YESIST12 will be hosted virtually on 10th, 11th October 2020. As a part of that, we have started series of webinar for all the tracks, and today we Maker Fair team presenting you the webinar on decoding the life cycle of technology-driven sustainable development programs. And I am so much grateful to all the participants today, and my special thanks to Mr. Sampath Kumar for giving us your valuable time in this critical situation. Please enjoy this session and don't forget to submit your project to our Maker Fair track and so on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tasnim, for your great introduction about the event. So here we have Dr. Ramalata Marimuthu, well-known person in IEEE circle and a great inspiration for all, for many. So I would like to call Dr. Ramalata Marimuthu ma'am to share a few words in this. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are, ma'am. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you so much, Naveen. I should thank Sampath for taking over this session. As soon as we asked him whether he will be able to take up this session and inspire our participants as well as the other people around the globe. As you all know, IEEE YESIST12 was started in 2013 just with the help of 5 to 6 teams within India and 4 teams in Bangladesh, but now it has gone around to 300 teams from all over the world. We are talking about nearly 20 countries all over the world. This year it will be much more too. And I would say it is all because of the volunteers like Naveen, Sampath, and Tasneem, all the people in this call. This year, Ramneek and Pooja, so many new people also have joined, and I'm very happy that it is going from strength to strength. So, how did I start all these things? It is all because of the inspiration given by my students, and I'm very happy to say that Sampath was one of my students who inspired me. And from there, we started a journey where it was not from student to teacher, it was from mother to son alliance. And now we are in this situation. And I'm very happy that Sampath also has grown so much. I would say he is one of my achievements. So that is how I think all my students are, and that is how I think we should talk about our friends and our volunteers and everybody. And I'm inspired by every one of the participants of IEEE YESIST12 till now, and I'm sure this is going to be a great session. Talking about the humanitarian activities, because the Humanitarian Activities Committee has been a major supporter for the IEEE YESIST12 from the beginning. It has been a stalwart, it has been a pillar for our IEEE YESIST12. So thank you so much, Sampath, for taking over this session and inspiring our participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. So I have a couple of instructions. So there will be a Q&A session at the end. So all the participants are requested to post your questions during the Q&A sessions in the Q&A box. And the feedback form will be circulated, at the end of the session. Please do participate in that feedback. So we will be sending the participation certificates to the email IDs which are mentioned in that feedback form. Okay. So without much delay, I would like to hand over the session to today's speaker, Mr. Sampath Kumar Veeraraghavan. Sir, please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Navin. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, greetings everyone. It's very thrilled to be all with you all today. This is an amazing, transnational program, which I'm very delighted to be part of it. I remember last year, I think they had it in Thailand, if I correctly remember. So it becomes a very important program that I don't want to miss out. For the last few years, I've been interacting with the organizers, especially with Professor Ramlata, who I known for probably more than I would say like a decade and even more than that right now. First of all, two major colleagues here is, when we started, this tech-driven, humanitarian efforts in IEEE way back in 2005, we had some lone warriors, like, I have been doing some work on autism, and Professor Ramlata has been very focused on helping women from, providing opportunities for women empowerment and so on. So we, in fact, we both wrote together the first proposal to bring down the Region 10 student young professional WA conference first time to India, outside, within IEEE ecosystem. So it's been a very long journey. I've been pretty much associated transforming the sustainable development space for IEEE. I would say more than 15 years by now. So it's very heartening to see where we started and where we are with programs like YESIST12. Before I get into the topic today, I would like to again give a round of applause and kudos to Professor Naveen, Professor Tasneem, and all the unsung heroes who are sitting behind the shows and who have been instrumental in driving this wonderful platform to bring together students and young professionals, inspire them to give it back to the society. So kudos to you, everyone. So with that said, the primary purpose of today's section, I would say, decoding the life cycle of tech-driven sustainable development programs is twofold. One, I would give a 10,000 feet overview of, what are the various stages of a sustainable development program. And then we will spend more time on what are the opportunities, funding opportunities that is available within the IEEE ecosystem, specifically from the Humanitarian Activity Committee or the site program standpoint, right? So at the end of the section, I really want to take twofold. I want to provide two takeaways, right? One is how you could engage potentially in site as a program, and also to see what are the funding opportunities available which you guys can potentially leverage on it. Okay, but if there are other questions that you wanted to reach out, if you don't if you wanted to follow up, I will leave my email address to Navin, Professor Navin, and you are more than welcome to write to me directly on that. Okay, so with that said, let's take a quick look into the couple of key areas which I want to touch up today. So first of all, let's talk about sustainable development space and humanitarian space in general, right? I mean, this particular keyword has gained more momentum very recently in the last few years, I would say. Even though the sustainable goal was crafted pretty long, I think the momentum to leverage technology for sustainable development space and in general the humanitarian space have gained a lot of focus and attention in the last, I would say, decade or so. Many of you are already aware about UN Sustainable Goals, which are listed here. There are about 17 goals right now. It's the goals are created in such a way that these are some of the pressing, significant challenges that UN as an organization wants both the public and the private stakeholders to join hands to address it collectively. And some of them includes, as you all know, like healthcare, providing access to affordable healthcare, and of course providing the ability to connect the unconnected through electrification of the low resource setting, especially the vulnerable communities in the low resource setting, and then providing transportation, climatic changes, and more recently, I would say the very prominent and more pressing area is digital connect. With COVID situation, I think providing equitable access to information digitally and it is getting very critical these days. And clean water, access, and providing emergency response and environmental protection and so on are numerous challenges. Now what we see here, this 17 goals initially were like treated to be like each of these goals were focused at addressing one key areas of the challenges faced by the global underserved community at large, right? Whether it be in poverty elevation or be in education or providing access to differently abled people, and so on, right? So necessarily people sometimes think when you say the keyword humanitarian, they think like, hey, it has nothing to do with engineering, it's all about collecting money and then distributing money. But it's totally wrong. In fact, the humanitarian as a field actually drives innovation in the sector of engineering. So we'll see that in a minute. So one common thing I would like to call out here, you can see here the 17 goals actually demonstrates a pattern here, right? It demonstrates the collective need of the local community, and it scales up to the global community. In other words, you talk about education, healthcare, poverty, employability, right? It's pretty much common. You take any country, any city, any town, any street, I would even say, like these are like common factors, right? So these problems, if you could provide a particular solution to address this kind of challenges, it scales up pretty well actually, right? So that's how UN came with the 17 critical goal, which collectively, if we could address, will contribute to the larger cause of humanity, right? So that's fundamental here, right? Why this problem space, or I would say this challenging avenues, provides the breeding ground for innovation. Okay. Okay. Now let's put a very simple question. Okay, why do we need to, as an engineer, why do we need to engage in humanitarian activities, right? I mean, there's plenty of answers to it, right? Some of the classical answers I would say here is, hey, it provides an opportunity for creative solution formulation. Personally, in my own journey as an engineering student, I was involved in developing one of the AI based screening technology for autism. That's how my journey with both with IEEE, even with my expertise in sustainable development space was fostered through my engagement, right? We'll talk about it, why it provides more creative solution, and then the most important thing is it provides an opportunity to engage in a real world project where outside of your school of training, from university, you get to work with people, and you gain skill sets which are needed to make you industry ready, such as how do you engage with the community, how do you talk to a partner, and so on, right? I mean, these are skills you gain by experience, not by reading books and so on, right? So this is very fundamentally very critical aspect of it. And thirdly, it's always like you have this passion and satisfaction, right? You are contributing to a larger cause, because through your innovation you can touch up the lives of millions of people actually, right? So essentially you are bringing in a change. I would say the change can be positive or negative, that depends on the technology what you are developing, right? For example, you may be developing a technology which help people to actually address their critical needs like healthcare and so on. You can also use technology for warfare, which is not really like, in a way it provides security, but in a way it's also negative as well, right? So but overlay your trade-off, your innovation should outweigh your risk, and should offer more positive benefits to the larger community at large here, right? And I would say another area I would say here is, it's also like application of your technology speaks volume or provides more visibility than theoretical explanation, right? If you design a system and say you put it into action, I think people get really interested to see, hey, wow, you developed a robot, it works like this, or you develop some AI based solution. I think end of the day, I think the demonstration of impact creates much more public visibility, which in turn can become a good channel to attract young students and kids to leverage this opportunity to take STEM education as a potential career, right? So these are some of the reasons why we have seen like engineers why they want to involve in humanitarian activities. But there is one more fundamental reason here, right? One is, as an engineer, what we do, right? We develop solutions, we innovate, right? Technology, right? Now let's think about, why do we need technology? Like, there has to be a root cause that triggers the development of a technology, right? Which is essentially the need actually, right? As the famous saying goes, right? I mean, the need is the necessity of innovation, right? I mean, so a community need actually drives the role of technology. How do you leverage technology, and how do you transform that need into a solution, is what I think provides the creative landscape for innovation and development. Now again, these are some classical examples for technology for social good. That's the way it's been projected these days. I would say, like, you take any you can see on the left side, there's a lot of needs here, right? Whether if there is an emergency disaster, you need some technology to track it, and the right side you can see some of the hot topics in artificial intelligence. You can see computer vision, machine learning, and so on. So I'm just providing a map here how this is a two-way door, right? One, the need actually help us to advance technological innovation in certain sector, right? And then in turns, whatever advancement you are making in that sector, it again reinforced back as an investment again to address this kind of challenges on the ground level. So you can see some of the prominent areas or problem space, digital healthcare, refugee support, elderly care support, and mapping the vulnerable communities and so on. So the bottom line here is, it's a very very important segment, I would say, the humanitarian segment, which not only like directly any investment we make there in terms of technological innovation, it directly correlates us and having a much broader blast radius of impact throughout globally. Okay. Okay, let's take in a 10,000 feet overview. Typically, like, what are the various stages we have within a humanitarian, or a sustainable development project centric life cycle, right? So I think typically, like, you take any program development phase, there are multiple stages. I mean, to talk about, you first understand the requirements and so on, right? Requirements, and then you formulate a system design, and then you implement the system design into a solution, a quick prototyping, and then you actually conduct some kind of field testing, and then you measure the impact, and then you wanted to make sure, absolutely you wanted to make sure that you're actually addressing the needs of the community, and then you roll it out, right? So very simply, you can say like, it's basically like, gather, collection. So connect, collaborate, and then, you develop, you design, you develop, you deploy, right? It's a reflection of, the same thing here. The only key difference here is it's bottom up. In other words, in a purely technology centric program, you actually like develop a technology based on a market value. Market value is again a need, right? Whereas in case of a sustainable development challenge, the interesting fact here is you identify the community, and then you understand the needs of the community, or in other words, the pain points or the challenges faced by the community. You prioritize their pain points, and then you interconnect them with the UN Sustainable Development Goal, and then you then identify what is the best available technology in the market right now, what is lagging, and then you develop a proposal or a solution that basically focused at addressing this localized need actually, right? So if you look through the process here, fundamentally you understand the problem domain, right, which is typical of any engineering, right? The only major difference here is when you say the understand the problem domain, here it's about understanding the narrative of the community and making sure you transform the narrative into a proper community centric problem definition space. Okay, and then defining the technology space, right? I mean, next thing is you understand what are the various flavors of technology available. For example, for COVID, we had a special call for in IEEE site, and there are many challenges faced by the communities across the globe, rising including ventilators, employability, access to schools, access to information, and so on, right? But you take any community, there's going to be like top 5 items, which is like I must have certain things. It's essential, right? So you prioritize that and you do the technology mapping here, right? I mean, ventilators, you have various models and designs, right? So you then prioritize what is needed for the specific market segment, and cherry pick that particular design based on the signal, right? Various signals. Now, once you do that, you also need to have a good partnership, right? I mean, good partnership in the sense is any sustainable development project, comprises of 3 major components to it. One is the community. The second thing is, the non-profit or the local players who understands the engagement of the community, the cultural and the economic background of the local community. That's very critical in terms of a sustainable development program. And the third thing is the engineering, right? The engineering part of it. The engineering can be an individual or can be an organization like IEEE. Okay. Now we will do a little bit more deep dive into when we talk about site projects, example, and so on. So holistically, as you can see here, the end-to-end life cycle comprises of identifying your community, targeted community, understanding their needs, defining clear-cut goals and metrics. Essentially, like how do you measure your success of your goal, and then finally coming out with a proper technology-centric framework and a solution. So these are the very critical stages of a sustainable development program, which I think like many of the people, I mean, this model has been adapted throughout the globe today. So, and I mean, the flavor could vary based on the program and so on, but the generic flow is such that it's very linearly incremental, waterfall delivery model here. Okay, and here some guidelines about which I think we'll do a deep dive as we speak about the other opportunity. I mean, essentially, when we say like community, I think the focus here is like with an unbiased view. We just need to understand what the community wants. It's not about what I want as an engineer, right? So I mean, as an AI expert can say, maybe I can create a machine learning system which can solve the problem. But maybe it's not what the community wants. Maybe the community just wants a solar lamp to address the prominent energy related issue, right? So we just need to weigh in the right approach here, and then we want to make sure we validate our perception versus reality, right? I mean, we easily can get carried away. Okay, if you are good at something, we will think like, okay, we can leverage that to solve all the problem. It's not. Maybe there's a very simpler solution that's available here, right? So we really wanted to understand what is really needed from the community standpoint, and then we also need to understand the various internal and external dependencies which can impact your technology selection or technology deployment, right? For instance, if you are working on a healthcare project, right, I mean, we may think as an engineer, okay, I can devise a solution, I can take it to the market right away, but that's not true, right? I mean, there are several flavors to it. You need to probably get a local clearance from the local healthcare governmental organizations. There are regulations that you need to check into. Third thing is data privacy, right? How do you ensure that any information you collect are securely maintained and they are handled properly, so there is a lot more here. So I would say, like, the most important thing is when you say you want to define your problem space, in other words, your landscape for innovation, you really need to understand the community needs and understand the other external factors and internal factors that could influence your choice of solution development, as well as your design and so on. Okay. Okay, so some few areas here. In general, when you define your technology space, I mean, once you understand your targeted community, what they want, and your partnership and so on, right? I think it's always important that you understand the alternative technology that's available, right? For example, you can actually let's assume like you have a village and the village have shortage of electricity. There are multiple ways you can actually solve this problem, right? You can create an off-grid solution, right? I mean, you can put your own transformer and so on. Alternatively, you can also put power grids, and you can even create rechargeable bank of energy sources and create energy farm of some sort, right? So you really need to weigh in the pros and cons, not only from the technology standpoint, the ease of use, but also from the economic standpoint, also from the maintainability standpoint, right? You can't really deploy a very high-end technology which is going to cost you millions of dollars, but then the return on investment and the ease of uses is very, very complicated, that you always need an engineer to be there. That's basically a failed technology, right? So you really wanted to weigh in, what is the market segment, what is the localized community wants, and how you could ensure that considering all this localized factor, contextual factors into play, what is the right technology here. And then the most important thing, as I said, we have to think holistically here. Is it affordable? Is it usable? And what are the other legal, physical, and temporal parameters that could actually influence your choice of technology, right? And the most important thing here is you need to be agile. You should fail fast. In other words, you should be motivated to act on it, and we have to fail fast. In that way, whatever learnings you are getting back from the community, that will help you to fine tune your product as you develop your product, throughout your solution develop space. I don't want to talk about IEEE Code of Ethics here, but just keep in mind, any technology that you develop, it's not always going to be positive. There is some negative impact to it, right? So think through it, right? Think through it and be explicit and transparent about it, right? Maybe like you may be putting some power related solution and make sure that carbon footprint is less actually, right? So, and the important thing is tech ethics. It's been a very, very important area right now, because every technology we develop, I mean, we always think from the positive aspect, but it's also important you wear the devil's advocate and see what are the possible negative impact that you can create, and try to take remedial measures to minimize those risks actually. Okay, and of course document every aspect of your development. I mean, these are some guidelines which we have seen in many of the successfully rolled out programs, when it comes to sustainable development space. Now, with that said, I would want now to spend the next 15 minutes talking about what are the avenues or opportunities you have within IEEE. How you could actually leverage your learnings and put forth into action. Okay. So first, I understand there are folks which are not part of IEEE. So a quick primer on IEEE, as you all know, is it's the world's largest professional organization. And you name it, whether it's an engineer, scientist, managerial folks in any form of engineering, I bet you have an IEEE member there. Okay. So essentially, it's a very truly global organization, present in more than 160 plus countries. and you can pretty much tap into the network when it comes to engineering and so on. And there's a lot of engineering resources, training, funding, institutional relationships, and so on. So I think fundamentally, IEEE, is in a way it's a face of engineering, I would say. And it provides this global platform for people to connect and collaborate and inspire and deliver value at grassroots level. Okay. So with that said, let's talk about a little bit more with the program I am actually related with. I am the global chair of site program, which is special interest group on humanitarian technology. Before we go on and talk about that, a quick primer about what is the larger mandate for IEEE, right? The larger mandate for IEEE is to foster technological innovation and excellence for the benefit of humanity, right? So this is a mission, right? For any mission, you actually need to have a set of goal to achieve your mission, right? So that goal, which actually which boils down to cite and hack, or if we have a 2015 to 2020 goal, the goal there is to lead humanitarian efforts around the world to use technology to solve the world's most challenging problems, right? So that means in order to achieve a goal, you need a program, and you need to have a measurable program, right? And that program is what is site is all about, right? And hack is the committee which actually foresees, or where I would say site is based out of. So the humanitarian activity committee, the mandate for that committee, it's a board appointed committee, is to actually create avenues where IEEE members can come together and leverage the skills to address the most pressing humanitarian problems. And the site is actually the implementation mechanism. In other words, it is the feet on the ground initiative that actually creates this opportunity at the grassroots level. So with that said, essentially site is nothing but it's a program which offers a platform to bring together three pillars to drive IEEE based community centric programs. One is the non-profit organizations, the IEEE members, and then the community itself. These are the three pillars of a typical site program. And you can see here, it's a network of IEEE volunteers around the globe, partner with the underserved communities and local organizations to leverage technology for the sustainable development. That's how IEEE comes into play actually in the sustainable development space. And we'll talk about site shortly. Now we spoke about site, what is site, and how site fits into the larger vision of IEEE. Now let's talk about how significant site as a program, right? Now site is actually have 10,000 members in 2019, and as you all know, the membership get reset every year. In fact, we are growing at much faster pace, 7,500 within the first 4 months, I would say, in 2020. And site as a program has been consistently gaining momentum since 2019 and so on, I would say. And you can see we are present right now at 156 groups in 52 countries. And last year we awarded up to 140K, I would say, in funding, receiving about 74 proposals globally, and we funded up to 21 projects actually. Now this year has been very interesting with respect to COVID. I will talk about that a little later in the slides, but we already have received more than 115 projects in 6 months, which is record breaking actually. So making all these efforts have made the site as the one of the fastest growing program within the IEEE sustainable development ecosystem actually. Okay. Now let's talk about what kind of opportunity we provide for the members, right? I mean, we touched upon it earlier in the slide. Basically, I think the very fundamental reason I would say here is why I want to engage in this kind of activity is contributing to the larger purpose of the larger vision, right? Your skill set or your contribution is actually contributing to address a real world project and to benefit people at the bottom of the pyramid, right? I mean, these are two critical factors, and in a way it provides the greater satisfaction to each of us, right? And secondly, site membership, I would say it's free, and we provide training and awareness programs through workshops, and then and if you are not taken our online courses, which is freely available in ITN, ILN, IEEE Learning Network, we take a look at it. We provide a lot of educational content to equip you to get exposed to to gain the right level of skill set to drive projects in the sustainable development space. And then thirdly, the core benefit of the site program is to provide funding, up to $20,000, US dollars to drive projects related to the sustainable development space. And also, as I called out, we have a larger global presence. So that means we provide transnational avenues for you to collaborate, learn the best practices from similar groups across the globe. So, in a nutshell, it provides a holistic benefit, whether you are an IEEE member or a non-IEEE member, to strengthen your skill set and to make you to be prepared, industry ready, and also academic ready. You know. Okay, so we spoke about the holistic benefits. Let's talk about specifically what are the core benefits, right? I mean, IEEE site membership is free, and typically, once you register as a site member, 6 people, I would say, like IEEE members, can join hands together to create a site group. And once you have a site group, we provide up to $250 as a seed fund. So the idea here is, the first 1 year you put up your team, you identify your local community, then you understand your community and identify the most pressing challenge they are facing. And then once you identify that particular problem, you can propose a technology to address it, and through a proposal. And those proposals typically are funded between $1,000 to 20,000 US dollars. And then the most important call out here is, these are like typically like 12 months project. So essentially you have 2 years, once you start a site group, and to roll out a project, and you have this big pool of opportunity to apply for funding with us. Apart from that, we also provide educational content and provide public visibility on the great work done by our volunteers globally. And then providing a lot of other additional avenues where you could participate in conferences and so on, where also we provide up to $750 of conference participation support and so on. So the nutshell, all these things comes out for free, I would say, right? The only thing we expect from you is have a passion to leverage technology to work with the community and address their needs, which I think aligns pretty well with the Makerfair conference itself, right? So with that said, I'm not going to get into the details here, but just for you to understand, once you have 6 IEEE members, you can constitute your site group. Typically, the site groups can be part of a university, local sections, or even it can be a silo by itself, with a region or even with a society and so on. All you need to do is, you need to have 6 people to start a site group. You don't need to have a project identifier at that point, right? You have about a year to figure out the landscape, the local community, and then figure out a project, right? And we have the 3 components we look through are do you have a passion, do you have the right team, and then which specific area you're looking into. These are the 3 critical factors we look into while we approve the operating unit, which is the site affinity group at grassroots level. Okay. So I think I'm going to spend some time here talking about the various projects. I think this is what I think it's matters most for the participant. One, today, there are 3 categories of projects which we support, right? One is new technology development. For example, you have a local community, and that local community actually wants you to develop a new technology. For example, COVID. Let's take an example here, right? COVID situation actually warranted us to come out with some really cool, innovative solutions. For example, we have seen projects where people have been leveraging machine learning and even data analytics dashboard to be mapped on or been extended to trace the trend of COVID patient in a local region and so on, right? So that's one classical example. And secondly, you may be coming out with your own novel design of ventilators, totally different, design based solution, right? Now that's one class of projects. The second class of projects here is, you have an existing technology, but you want to customize the technology to serve the needs of the local community. There are plenty of examples here for those kind of projects, right? I mean, solar lamp is a good example here, right? Solar lamp is a time and tested technology. All of us know about it. But then, we have seen projects, leveraging the same technology to customize it to serve the needs of a local community. For example, you may be surveying or working with a local village or a local school or a special schools, and you may need a specific, off-grid solution with certain capacity to meet their needs, right? So you can leverage an existing technology, but then you are contextualizing that to serve the needs of the local community. And thirdly, policy driven, right? Policy driven is a pretty, I would say, like a theoretical area. I mean, there are practical applications, but I would say like these are the three major class of projects that the majority of the projects comes under. And as I said, many of the funding opportunity within IEEE ecosystem are like bottom up approach, right? One typical mistake that people does in submitting projects in the IEEE ecosystem is, you may be a professor or a student or a professional, you may have certain technical skills, and you may submit a proposal thinking that a purely research driven project with no community buy-in or engagement, it's not going to sell well, or it's not going to fit well within the IEEE ecosystem, right? It's basically it's a top down approach, right? What we rather prefer here is a bottom up approach, where you understand your community and the community needs is the primary driving factor for your program. Okay, so make sure that any project or proposal that you put forth or two fourth, right? One is it has a clear identification of a community, and then you're working backwards from the needs of the community. And it's a 12-month window, and then typically you have local partnership. It's not mandate, but it's good to have a local partnership. And then it's a purely driven by the IEEE volunteers and the non-IEEE volunteers at the grassroots level. So with that said, maybe we'll talk about a little bit more about some examples of side project. And you can see here some of the examples of the projects we funded in 2019. Installation of solar technology at the healthcare center in Uganda. Rehabilitation for sustainable future of Delta farmers. This is done by our own team, probably Professor Ramlata and Dr. Navin, here. And then Light Up the World, again, interesting project from in Canada. And then smart switching toilet for flood region, again, excellent project from IEEE Kerala section. And Nabon network project, which was focused as connecting different schools, in Ecuador, which had poor, internet access and so on. And lastly, educational technology conditioning with photovoltaic modules, Honduras. And you can see the pattern here, right? I mean, there are few novel projects. For example, the one in Ecuador, the one in India. Like, there are novel projects where they wanted to develop new technology. Where in other instances, you can see like solar technology. You can see the one in Honduras and Uganda. I mean, these are existing technology, but then they are contextualized to serve the needs of the local regions there, right? And then, I mean, in addition to that, these are some points where we take into consideration when you want to put up a good proposal, right? One is make sure you identify your community clearly, and then you identify the needs clearly, and then identify your partnership and call out the clear role play, right? I mean, typically, like you have to provide a clear clarity about what it takes to be a good NGO partner. I mean, what responsibilities of the project they are assigned to do on. And then a well-defined project plan, right? I mean, what is your goal? Okay, the community has 5 needs. You want to take the top 2, perfectly fine. You just phase your program, right? And then provide a very realistic timeline. It's going to take 12 months, and within the 12 months, 2 months I'm going to invest on surveying, 2 months on design, 3 months on implementation, 1 month of field testing, and 2 months of rolling out or making it generally available across the board, right? So make sure your proposal clearly calls out the metrics as well, the number of volunteers involved, the number of people get benefited, what are the tangible outputs, right? I mean, these are tangible outputs, number of people benefited and so on. What are the outcomes you are generating? Outcomes can be like, you may install an off-grid solution to a low resource setting community, but that in turn maybe is allowing now students to gain more access to electricity, so they can spend more time reading and learning. And also maybe it also helping the local business to run business for extended hours. That means now they basically can improve their socioeconomic factor much better, and they can let their children to go back to school. So there are some tangible indirect and direct outcomes what you can pursue or predict within the next year or two, right? Make sure you call those things as part of your proposal. And of course, sustainability plan, right? You once you deliver the technology on the ground, who is going to take the ownership to continue the technology, right, after your deployment, right? So in a nutshell, the four major elements that you need to clearly demonstrate in your proposal includes community engagement, your technology development plan, your partnership, and your impact and sustainability plan. These are the four major components. Okay. What we actually look when we review such proposals are, does your project clearly aligns with the needs of the community, whether it's truly bottom up or you are inflating it to be bottom up. That's what we look into. Who are the stakeholders, right? Who are your partners, right? What role do they play? How this project fits into the larger scope of IEEE's or mission, right? Does it fit into the larger mission of fostering technological innovation for the benefit of humanity, right? Does it align with that? Do you have a well-defined project? Do you understand your dependencies? Do you have a well-defined milestones? And in order for you to be successful, we also offer a lot of tools in site.ieee.org. Take a look at our website. We provide tons of material to guide you to put forth a very solid proposal when it comes to sustainable development space, right? And we like pestle analysis, star analysis, and so on. There's a lot many more tools available. And then in addition to that, we also provide one-on-one guidance, and then there are other programs we typically roll out. Now, with that said, what are the common mistakes people does, when they write a proposal is that they want to inflate, right, the impact. It's perfectly fine, even if your technology is addressing or benefiting only 100 or 150 people, perfectly fine, right? We don't need to say like, hey, my technology is going to cover millions of people. That's not quantifiable. How do you even measure it? Recently, we saw a proposal where people said, give me like $500 and we will cover 6 million people. It's amazing, right? I mean, the first thing that strikes you on mind is it's not value proportionating, right? And how do you even measure your impact, right? So make sure, you don't need to oversell yourself. Just be transparent and then, be very, very pointed and specific. While the problem can be, prevalent, you may be working only with a very smaller set of people, which is perfectly fine actually. Okay. And then ambiguous goal, right? I mean, when you write a proposal, as I said, the community may have 10 different needs, but you need to work with the community to understand what are the top 5 significant problems, and then you try to make your proposal for each of those problems. Actually, that's a better way of writing a winning proposal rather than putting everything together and then making it very ambiguous. Just have a clear-cut set of goals and make sure that you demonstrate the value proposition, what you're offering as part of your program, right? And then, sometimes people don't even call about, like they will say, hey, we are working with an NGO, we are partner with no clarity or information, limited information on that. Avoid that. When you write a proposal, the most important thing that has to be in our mind is specificity. Whether it comes to community, technology, or even like the measure, like the metrics, or even like a timeline budget, you have to be very, very crisp and very, very pointed as much as possible. Okay. And then risk analysis, right? I mean, we have seen proposals where people will just say like, hey, we have one person driving the proposal. Now think about it, right? If I am an investor or a funding agency, should I invest on a team with only one point of contact, or will I be comfortable having a team actually, right? One point of contact is basically, it's like putting the ground for a single point of failure, right? We would like to avoid that. So have a clear, description of your team chatter, who plays what role, what is their experience, how you are contributing to your, your program vision, right? And then no KPIs, right? You need to measure it. If you can't measure something, then it does not exist actually, right? So you need to clearly tell, how do you measure your project as successful? It may be you are providing electricity to 15 households, or you are training certain people and they are having some skill set and making them employable and so on, right? You need to call your program centric KPIs actually. Okay. So these are some of the things and guidelines I would say. And we just closed out our special call for 19. This was a totally different program. We just launched it. This has been an amazing successful program. The idea behind the COVID call was to not put our volunteer. Typically, the site programs are feet on the ground initiative, but this one was so special that we really don't want people to go out, on the ground, but rather we encourage people to apply for funding, especially like if they have a novel idea when it comes to address some of the challenges that emerges because of the COVID situation. Okay, some classical examples I have called it out where ventilator design, creating digital solutions for education and training and so on. Now this special call fair has been completed so now, but I would definitely say that we will have a bunch of special call fair in the one or two more call fairs in the second probably in the next 6 months or so. Okay, so we spoke about holistically in the complexity of the sustainable development programs, the life cycle. We spoke about IEEE, site, hack, and so on. Now, these are some of the highlights about site as a program. So last year, when I took over the ownership of the as the global chair of the site program, we have reached record-breaking growth across the board. We have reached our first 10,000 ever membership mark, doubling our membership growth since site's inception. And as you can see here, we have hosted a lot of programs to directly interface with volunteers globally. So there's the Ask the Chair program, which typically happens every bi-monthly, I would say. So if you are an IEEE member or a non-IEEE member who has a passion to work on a sustainable development project, you are welcome to join those sections where you can directly get one-on-one guidance from me and my team. And we have global awards, site awards for the best affinity groups, and then for the volunteers. And we have a bunch of other great programs we have launched within the last 13 to 14 months and so on. Now, recently we also launched the first ever site day, which is a global program to bring in site volunteers throughout the globe and celebrate their success. We launched the first inaugural one on 28th April 2020, which has been pretty successful. We had more than 3,000 members across the globe contributing to it. And you can see here how site is a truly global organization. The demonstrate the diversity of various culture and leaders from various cultures contributing to the larger vision here. There are a few examples here. And then the most importantly, site, as I said, is the fastest growing program within the IEEE for the sustainable development space. And you can see the kind of partnership we are fostering right now. We have 12 partnership last year with IEEE societies. This year, we are also working with other key major players, industrial players, and key leaders like ITU and UN and so on. So definitely, there are opportunities at grassroots level, at regional level, at a global level for you to participate and to give it back to the society. So with that said, this is my committee, the global committee. You can see very well-known, faces, both global leaders here. And in fact, there are a few key leaders, especially who are related, even like from site related with YESIST12. I mean, Professor Naveen is the co-chair for the operations committee, and Professor Ramalata has been like contributing to site and hack initiatives through the years. And especially this year, she will be serving as the special program site WAE as a mentor for the committee as well. So with that said, I'm going to stop here. There are some references here. How do you become a site member? How do you apply for site funding? How do you get an example? How do I look at what are the examples of various site projects? How do I write a proposal and so on? And so two takeaways here. Take a look at the site website. Register yourself as a site member. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Join the social networking to connect with the other members. If you have further questions, write to us at site@IEEE.org. So with that said, I'll stop here and I'll open the floor to interact with the audience at this point. Naveen? Hello?
Hello. Yes, sir. Ramnik this side. Maybe there's some audio problem at Naveen's end. So if you allow me, can we start with the QA session, sir?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. So we have the first question related to IEEE side. What kind of training programs are available provided by IEEE side, and what will be the procedure for non-IEEE members to get associated with IEEE side?
Okay, fabulous question. I think the three major avenues we have. Okay, one is we provide online content for training. So if you go to if you search Google ILN IEEE Sustainable Development Programs, there are a bunch of examples. I'll be happy to even send the links to you all. So that's an online training, right? The second thing is we also provide webinars and then online virtual workshops. I mean, typically we provide in-person workshops like in leading conferences and local events and so on. But with COVID, we are rolling out virtual training pretty much right now. And thirdly, we also provide case study examples, where which you can take a look at the templates and the tools that we offer that will help you to put up projects which aligns with the larger purpose of Hack and Site. Now, with respect to the engagement of IEEE, non-IEEE members into site, so essentially you need to identify your local IEEE section and see if they have a site group. And say, for example, you come from a non-profit sector and you think you have certain expertise, you can add value, then you can actually write to the local site groups, and then based on your expertise and their need, you can serve in their site committee actually. So there are a bunch of opportunities. You can even serve as a mentor or mentee to your local student branches or site volunteers for specific projects. You can even be as a contributor in some capacity, whether it's basically like giving them inputs about the local community or establishing a connection with the local community and so on. So there are tons of opportunity here. So to sum it up, as I said, online material, educational training, in-person, workshops, and then virtual workshops, or the current mode of avenues how we train our volunteers. And it is expected in July and August time frame there is going to be virtual summits for site. And you can take a look at our site website in the next 2 weeks or so. We'll be publishing the summits. That's also a good way for you to join and learn and get trained in the sustainable development space.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful remarks for this question. Our next question is, I guess that has been answered by you already. What will be the benefits of students, IEEE student member while joining inside?
Yes.
So,
very
if you want to make an addition comment, yeah,
sure. So I will reinforce certain points, right? I mean, as a student, today you are very university bound, right? I mean, you go to college, you take your classes, and then whatever examinations or labs you get, you are just applying or learning there. But you never had an opportunity to actually, to work on a real world project, right? So that actually is a key differentiator between even site and other programs within IEEE, right? In here you actually work on a real world project, so you actually think more than that, right? For example, you learn the art of engaging with the community. You learn how a good technical documentation can be written. You also learn about the most additional aspects of availability, and then in terms of scalability and reliability and so on when it comes to system design and development, right? So as a student, in a way, side projects help you to gain the skills needed to prepare for your interview, in fact make you industry ready. Because when you get onto industry, it actually there are few factors we look into, right? We look into are you a team player, right? Site actually provides you the opportunity to be a part of a team and be a player, right? At the same time, are you solving the problem which is most critical, right? In other words, from the industry standpoint, are you actually listening to your customer? The customer here is your community. So in a way, you are exposed to a real world project and the ideologies of product development much earlier during your university education itself, which I think is an amazing opportunity.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. There's one, I guess, this is a repeated question I also get in my network circle. How to join IEEE site basically? So what are the alternative ways?
Okay, so I think, as I said, right, I mean, maybe if you could go to a site.ieee.org, we do have a bunch of resources available there. So let me see if I could quickly bring up the the website here. In that way, it's um, more helpful for the audience. So you can see here, this is a site website, and you can see here get involved, right? Apply for site funding and so on. So, and we also provide classrooms here, which has pre-recorded. So become a site member, right? Find a site group, start a site group. So if you click on all these different topics here, you will understand. So today the best way for you to do is, you can see clearly here non-members and IEEE members, right? So essentially you registered here, you just need to, add that, and then you follow through the website here, and you will be able to actually, like, register for yourself. So there are multiple ways, right? I mean, either you follow through this particular website here, and then if you had difficulty, write to us, site@ieee.org. And the third thing is, say, if you find your nearest site group, right? You can write to the local section or local chair here, right? So that's another way. So this website, we are making some additional changes here, but right now we are providing a summary of where the site groups are, and you can, to some extent, you can see where the groups are actually. Okay, and then once you get the information, you can, I mean, if they have a website, it's present here. If not, you have to Google it. So the bottom line is threefold. One is, you can apply using the IEEE site website to become a member. Two, you can reach out to you identify your local IEEE section or the IEEE site affinity group and write to them. And thirdly, you can write to us, site@ieee.org, if you are facing any challenges in terms of enrollment.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful demonstration. There's one more query. Like, actually, I got many queries on other media where we are live streaming. So we have one question, like, what is the basic difference between hack and IEEE site? Okay. So this is the basic query that people do have. Yeah.
Okay, that's an easy one. I'll tell you. Okay, let's go back to the other slides we talk about today, right? So IEEE, actually, we didn't have a chance to talk about the other programs within IEEE. So the sustainable development space within IEEE is much larger. Okay, we have other programs like EPICS, SITE, HKN, and so on. Let's talk about this slide for a second, right? So IEEE is an organization, right? We spoke about it. It's the world's largest organization. Now the mission of this organization, we all spoke about it. Advancing technology to benefit humanity. Now there's a board which administered the global operation of IEEE. We call it as IEEE Board of Directors. What is hack here is, now IEEE mission is implemented by a set of goals. So one of the goal which actually the board defined here is create opportunities to involve IEEE members to engage in humanitarian activity. So this goal is actually taken as a mandate by a committee called as Humanitarian Activity Committee. And SITE is actually part of the Humanitarian Activity Committee. In other words, Humanitarian Activity Committee is the parent committee, and then we are part of it. To give an example here, think hack as the university, centralized university, whereas SITE is the college, right? As all SITE affinity groups are the local colleges which are affiliated to the centralized university. So hack defines the strategy, whereas SITE is basically the implementation mechanism, is the feet on the ground initiative. So in other words, SITE, it's a program by itself, but then the vision and the mission of SITE is actually defined by hack as a program. Got it? So that's what, if you see here, clearly the hack mission, there is a goal, there is an initiative that's needed to meet the mandate of the board, and hack is that mission. And the way the hack mission is implemented is through a program called a SITE. Okay, so just think of it, SITE as the it's part of hack. It's actually part of hack, but then hack is the parent here. Okay, so it's kind of a parent-child relationship between SITE and hack here.
Sure. Thank you, sir. So we have.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I had some network issue. That's why I got disconnected. So thank you so much, Sampath sir, for your wonderful session, and for having some network issue. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay, okay, sorry. Okay, so we have another interesting question from Dr. TV Gopal. So the question is how to distinguish development project and research project.
Very good, excellent question, right? The answer lies in your question itself. A research project is top down, right? I mean, for example, let's take a classical example here. Let's assume like you are working on machine learning, right? You may be actually developing a specific application. For example, say let's you are working on anomaly, detection problem, right? Here the focus will be like how do you come out with a better algorithm, to do better, classification, right? Now, if you can connect your research project to a local community, for example, you are working with a local hospital or a healthcare center where you have, say, like hundreds of cancer patient along in partnership with a doctor and an NGO, right? That actually transforms that into a sustainable development project because you are actually addressing a critical problem, but you are coming from the community standpoint, right? So two distinct areas in a research project, the emphasis is more on the technological advancement of your methodology, right? How you advance your research, like what unique solution you are creating from algorithm and so on. Where in terms of sustainable development project, the emphasis is more on the need and then leveraging technology as a catalyst to address that need. Okay, does it make sense?
So actually, your voice is not audible, Naveen sir.
It is better.
Yeah, it's not audible. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Sampath sir, for enlightening us on about UN Sustainable Development Goals and why the engineers should engage in humanitarian activities, different types of models, and thanks for touching something related to tech ethics and opportunities. That is what I would say. IEEE is an ocean of opportunities. So thanks for enlightening us on various opportunities in IEEE as well as IEEE site. Uh, as far as humanitarian technology and projects are concerned. So at this moment, I would like to thank my team, Mr. Tasnim and Tamim Hossain from Bangladesh, Mr. Dev Sugandhika and Indrajit from Sri Lanka, Mr. Junaid from Pakistan, Ian Praveen, Mr. Inian, Mr. Praveen, Ms. Janani, and Mr. Ramnik from India. These are all, my team who made this event all success in all possible, ways. So I thank all the participants to attend this webinar today. So thank you so much. We look forward to engage you in our future events as well. So the feedback form will be posted in the chat box. So participants, please do participate in it. So we will meet in one such occasion in the future. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So thank you, Navin, and it's amazing to be part of here with such an active audience. Again, kudos to the SS12 organizing leadership, Professor Ramlata, Dr. Navin, and everyone on the call. I would say, I mean. It takes several villages come together to build a nation. I think I've been seeing the transformation of SS12 over the years, how it all started, and it's truly getting into a global program. So I'm very very heartened. It's heartening to see this kind of progression, and definitely and again you can actually if you need further guidance or support, write to us site at IEEE.org. And also there's a bunch of programs that's coming up in the next few weeks, off the chair site programs and site virtual summits and so on. So don't hesitate, write to us. Again, glittering example, how people should come together as one global family to address the important problem. You can see here people from different countries within region 10 we are talking about within Asia Pacific. Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India is a glittering example. How we all can come together, join hands to address such a seminal challenges across the globe. So with that said, kudos to the team. Keep up the marvelous work what you guys have been doing. And to students and young professionals out there, good luck to you all. And if you need further guidance, feel free to reach out to me, at site at IEEE.org, or connect with me in LinkedIn or so on. Okay. So with that, I'll stop
Thank
here.
you, Sampath. Session was so great. So thank you so much. And thank you for talking about the YESIST12. You have been a wonderful supporter of YESIST12 till now. I think this will continue for years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sampath sir. For your information, apart from Region 10, for this webinar, we have got a participation from Spain and United States as well. If I'm not wrong, we have got participation from Iran as well. I think Iran is also not a part of Region 10. I'm not sure, but we have got a participation from Iran, Spain, and United States for this webinar. So thank you so much for making this event a great success. Thanks for your all time and efforts. I know your situation, and it's a tough schedule for you. Thank you so much for accepting and engaging yourself in this webinar. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Navin. Great interacting with you all, and wish you all a wonderful time ahead. Okay. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.